seeking true inspiration and is timelier now more than ever. Through inspiration and action, this book provides the thirsty reader with a greater understanding of how we, as individuals, can positively affect change for ourselves and our collective humanity. I am Lois Herman, the author of Chronicles of Hope and the host of the Inspiring Hope radio show on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. You can find me at loisherman.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman, a leading expert in professional coaching, clinical hypnosis, and energy clearing. Lois is an award-winning author of Chronicles of Hope. She has decades of experience in advanced hypnosis techniques, has conducted highly effective success coaching programs that have helped clients discover ways to achieve success, empower themselves, their families, as well as holistic practitioners to expand their practices. Get ready to be empowered with your host, Lois Herman.
Good morning and welcome to Inspiring Hope. I am your host, Lois Herman, and I'm here to inspire you with positive messages and celebrate people who are making a difference in our world. When we focus our thoughts and energies on truth, honesty, and integrity, we create powerful shifts that cause us to be more positive and peaceful. As we lift our energy, we empower everyone around us. If we each do what we can to make small shifts in awareness, we create ripples of hope. Join us as catalysts for positive change for our families, our communities, and our world at large. I hope you are inspired by today's show. And happy Memorial Day. I'm going to do something right now. There we go. I hope you're enjoying this long, drizzly weekend, working around the house or visiting with friends. As you do that, reflect on those who made a difference in your life. Take a moment to honor all those who have impacted our lives, living and past, soldiers and peacemakers, family and friends, precious pets, and places that bring fond memories. There are many things that affect who we are based on the heritage that we hold in our DNA. It is said that history is written by the victors, the conquerors, while the stories of the conquered go untold. What if we knew the real truth? What if we had a concept of what actually happened in days of old, that we may learn from situations to make informed choices with updated awareness and hopefully improved outcomes? People are remembered by the stories told of them. Often only glowing positive stories are expressed, while the shadow side is buried with the person. Some speak only of negative impressions, while positive intentions are suppressed and forgotten. What if all stories were shared so a more complete picture could be painted of the individual? If we tell only the uplifting stories, it creates a false sense of reality with a hard act to follow for future generations. If only divisive stories are told, an imperfect sense of who the person strove to be is depicted. In a few moments, my dear friend and colleague, hypnosis, NLP, and energy expert Kathy Kubacki will join me on the show today to share musings, memories, and more on topics related to our current state of existence and what we can each do to shift our patterns toward wholeness, healthiness, and happiness. Reflecting on my own mother, who died a few weeks ago, she was perceived as a sweet and wonderful person by many people. She also had a very dark side that was revealed to those she held bitter resentment toward. Delving into the mystery of this confusion in a recent hypnosis regression session, I discovered the origins of her personal battle with duality came as a casualty hidden in unspoken American history. Her own mother was angry and unapproachable, pushing away her own children with a lack of desire for family connection. part of my mother was deeply affected by this dark side. However, she also spent many formative years with a beloved aunt-in-law who was instrumental in teaching her sewing, cleaning, baking, and showed her the sunny side of life. Therein lies the duality. Tracing the angry side of my mother to its origin took me 3 generations back to her mother's mother. Born to a Cherokee tribe at the time of the Trail of Tears, my great-grandmother was taken from her own native family at a young age and brutally forced to adopt the ways of the white man. She grew up with a deep resentment for being stripped from her secure native culture and pushed into a strange, uncomfortable way of life. With bonds from her birth family completely severed, no wonder she held such a deep-rooted animosity toward others and exhibited a lack of connection even to her own offspring. Understanding this behavior pattern gives me a sense of sadness for the internal battles my mother fought throughout her life. Now I can clearly see why she was often depressed and confused at why she sometimes felt and acted the way she did. As we apply this singular concept to our model of the world, what do we see? If we choose to ignore the horrors of our past, we obscure the reality of what many people endured and miss out on learning the origin of dysfunctional behavior. Therefore, we lack enough awareness to establish new foundations, to build pathways of peace for healthy families, communities, and our world. Throughout history, so many individuals, groups, and cultures have been abused, suppressed, and conquered. Our guides of the collective have said they don't understand why there is so much hate among humans. If hate is a learned behavior passed down from mother to child, what can we do to interrupt the pattern? If we acknowledge that hate is an expression of pain and that the potential for pain exists in every human being, then recognize these painful emotions can be triggered by sights, sounds, and even smells. Reactions to painful memories are expressed in a variety of ways. Some people act out, some retreat, while others stand for what is right and just and good. As we come to accept the pain in one another, let us also know we have the resiliency to change emotional ties to our pasts. Let us support each other with the realization that we can never really know what another person has been through in their lives or what ancestral memories contribute to drive their choices, consciously or unconsciously. You're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman at WSMN1590.live or 95.3 FM. Please help us share these messages, watch the videos on my YouTube channel or website, loisherman.com, and join our Hope community for support and inspiration at chroniclesofhope.net. If we think of humanity as one collective organism, one being, made of many individuals on this planet we call home, this living planet, our mother Gaia, with her spirit known as Gaia. Currently, it's as if a cancer of negativity has infected humanity. As this negative energy spreads, it eats away at healthy lives and erodes the vital flesh of our precious earth. What if we could neutralize this insidious disease and establish a strong, healthy civilization based on positive energy, respect, and hope? Can we create a paradise on this beautiful planet that is home to so many amazing creatures? It will take effort. Don't you think it's worth it to have a thriving civilization for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren? What can we do to achieve a higher level of consciousness? The universal energies spoke to us of the dangers of isolation we may consider it as separation. Many people already think of themselves as being separate from everything else, from each other, from animals, from trees, from our earth mother. and from whatever God they might call on. This way of thinking is fundamentally misguided and has been accelerated with the increased isolation and separation placed on us over this past year. How many people think of themselves as different, less than, not good enough, or inferior? That feeling of separateness is what causes prejudice, judgment, bias, and wars, and ultimately maybe the death of our human race. How we handle our life experiences is most meaningful when we come from a place of acceptance, togetherness, and hope. We bring peace. The vibrational energy then around us increases. The higher we vibrate, the more we're able to connect with and receive insight, knowing, and understanding from higher sources of wisdom, our guides. Then communicating with our wise spiritual mind, Mother Gaia and other wise ones of the collective, will communicate with us as a second nature. We open our sixth sense. And that's critical to remember. If we individually and communicatively raise our vibrational energy by being one with each other, all of nature, everything in and around our planet will thrive. What can you do to raise your energy or make even a small difference? I know I've promised to do my part. What can we each do in our own small way? I do find it interesting that the gentlest archangel who visited with us is the one who incited the most passion for revolution, to stand up for those who are stuck in the muck of mind-controlled illusion. Whether by innocence or indifference, people must wake up to what is going on around us and step into the light of truth, honesty, and integrity. We have been given the chance, right now, to change the path, the trajectory that humanity is on. If we lose this window of opportunity, we may be facing a major setback for humanity. Mother Gaia may choose to intervene, and it will not be pretty. Let us join together in the light of truth to awaken the power of love, light, and an intense passion for all things goodly and godly. Archangel Michael gives us clues as to what we can do to eradicate toxic substances from our bodies, from our energies. He suggests that we call our Mother Gaia to heal us. Many of us often ask for assistance from the collective of life beings in the angelic realm. However, we've, in the past, rarely thought to ask our own mother for healing assistance. While working on his session, Team Hope members shared a communal journey that confirmed that we must ask Gaia to assist us in clearing toxic substances from our bodies. As we sincerely ask for her assistance, she is willing to flush unnatural elements out of our bodies, returning these substances back to her where they belong. Others will be taken off planet by Archangel Michael. As our bodies heal, we must learn to avoid exposure to poisons in all areas that we consume via food, water, air, media, entertainment, music, and harmful people. As champions of the messages in Chronicles of Hope, Team Hope has been asked to teach, to get their words out, so those who are on the positive path will be able to embrace insights to help them stay their course. The hope is that others will understand the meaning of the words of the collective and be able to accelerate their own knowing so they can help others to manifest their own mission of hope. I often say, just as no two stars are alike, no two flowers are alike, no two snowflakes are alike, no two humans are alike. We each have our own unique gifts, skills, and talents that need to be shared with humanity. As we each cultivate and grow our gifts together with our angelic helpers, we can and will make a difference. As we weave our special thread in the fabric of humanity, we will help to strengthen the cloth. As we heal the pain of the past, respect and enjoy the gift of the now, we will create a more beautiful future for humanity by honoring each other and our precious earth. With each of us contributing our own unique skill, we will make a difference.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that will make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep from my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, and weightless, and maybe you'll find some peace tonight in the arms of the angel. Fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you feel. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here.
And may you find comfort in the arms of the angels. That's where I find my comfort, that there and with my fellow Team Hope members. And today I have an amazing Team Hope member and an incredible light warrior with me. Kathy Kubacki, are you there this morning?
I am. Good morning, Lois.
Good morning. There is so much to chat about, and I deeply appreciate you being here for me on this journey toward creating a 5D reality amidst a 3D pain.
I'm happy to be on the journey.
Yeah. So we have so much that we chat about regularly, and what would you like to talk about on this Memorial Day morning?
Well, one of the first thoughts that occurred to me, and I said a prayer of gratitude to those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And that seems especially important right now because so many of those freedoms are being challenged, and the sense of loss extends beyond the physical lives that have been lost over the years in our defense.
You're exactly right. So many soldiers have lost their lives, and so many peacemakers have lost their lives as well. People that are unspoken heroes.
That's true.
I know.
That's true.
Being raised an Army brat, my mother used to say that everybody, would celebrate my dad because he was in the military. And she considered that she sacrificed her life too, because he wouldn't have been able to do what he did without her at the time, making his clothes fit right, pressing his clothes. They weren't shipped off to be dry cleaned back then. So she had to, she cleaned and she took care and she ironed, and she was, his first mate. And she really felt like she dedicated her life to the military as well. So it's an interesting concept, celebrating only those that fought in battle when others fought in different ways.
Absolutely. I had my father's oldest brother. My uncle was an Army pilot and made that his career.
Mm-hmm.
And as they lived all over the world, there were 4 children, and they were my aunt's responsibility, as well as, keeping my uncle running. And, it was truly a partnership, but I do believe the wives were the unsung heroes.
Exactly. Absolutely. And then many of the children suffered as well from being moved and uprooted. Many people celebrate, I've lived the same place all my life, and there's some positive and minuses with that. And I have the unique opportunity to say that I went to 8 different elementary schools. And being an Army brat, move, which caused a lot of instability. And I ultimately moved 30 times in my life. And so now all I want to do is plant. Boom. I don't want to move ever again. But that tends to be one of the sacrifices that the people who are in the military make, is that when they are given orders, they go. They're not questioning. They don't doubt. They're just, yes, I have dedicated my life and my family's life to this. And people don't realize that it affects. It's not just the soldier. It's all of the support around the soldier. They're all dedicated.
That's true. That's true, because I realize I think about things a little bit differently. But for all intents and purposes, in many ways, military families spend a lot of time as a single parent household.
Yes.
And then the father would cruise back in and assume all the responsibilities, but his wife had the lion's share of the time. And it had to be confusing for the children. Oh, wait, Dad's home. Now he's the boss.
Right.
When, there wasn't a whole lot of recognition for the women that did this all day, every day, most days.
Right. And back in World War II, when the men went off to war, the women were here making artillery, making weapons. They would work in the factories. And then when the men came back from war, that was what started women really working outside of the home, because they were there making the supplies, the clothes, the boots, whatever. They were working in the factories. And when the men came home, the women had to relinquish their jobs. So it was a confusing time.
Well, it was a confusing time, because not only did they relinquish their jobs, to a certain degree, they were expected to relinquish their independence.
Yes. Yeah. And I know with a lot of the movements that are out and about right now, I live in New Hampshire, and there are a lot of mills here. And I've done a lot of history research on the history of the mills. And the mills were staffed by many, many women and children. And they worked long, brutal hours. And talk about servitude and slavery. This was not white-black. A lot of these were Irish and French. And they were very, very much oppressed. But we can't go around saying, all white people own slaves. That is so far from true. That many of the white people who settled our country were slaves in themselves.
Yes, because on my mother's side, I am Italian. In my area of New York, which I'm sure is true for many areas, the Italians were treated much the same way. They were manual laborers. They were treated like animals.
And we've seen our generation cross the barriers, but my parents spoke of their generation. My dad his parents were Polish and immigrated, and so they lived in the Polish section of town. So there was the Italian section, there was the Polish section, there was the German section. I mean, they were completely segregated, and it was between their generation of intermarriage and then subsequent generations accepting the intermarriage. But they were the first ones that had to really breach those boundaries. So
they were. And it doesn't seem to a lot of people today that those were boundaries, but they certainly were. I know in my area, my mother was kind of looked at with side eye when my parents got married in 1952, because she was what they referred to as, she's Italian. And, it took a lot. And you wouldn't consider that to be intermarriage, but, to them it was.
It was. And that crossed also, if you think about if you would be putting yourself in their shoes, or in Europe, these countries were warring against each other.
Yes, they were.
So now you're actually marrying someone that you were fighting against in actual hand-to-hand combat. So it was a huge, huge shift to be able to cross those barriers. And I know my dad was considered from across the tracks to my mom. And she was not Catholic. So when they were married, she was not allowed to be in the main altar. She had to be married at the side altar. So there were a lot of expected boundaries and
Yes.
rigid boundaries back then that our generation, I think, has helped to shift.
I agree. And I think that people seem to think that segregation is something recent, and it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's not. You know, I'm sure at its inception it was some sort of protective measure, you know, tribal. It was safe to be with people that shared your beliefs. But I think we need to celebrate the fact that those things have changed so much instead of focusing on, you know, where things haven't changed and fostering that attitude.
And it was also simply a convenience because my grandparents didn't speak English until later years of life. My mother, when she would visit their house, they all spoke Polish, and that she had to learn at least a little bit to understand. But it was just they had their whole community spoke a certain language and had cultures and customs that were common to that culture, to their heritage. So
that's true.
In Memorial Day, we need to really look at the memories of all of our heritage. We are a melting pot. America is made up of countries and cultures from all around the globe, and not one is not better than the other. Our ancestors have chosen to come here for different reasons, and I would love to understand all the whys and whys. My husband's really into genealogy, but I want to know not just so-and-so moved here and did this. I want to know why, what caused them. My curiosity is what caused them to want to make that move. What was the emotional dynamic behind that?
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, with my own ancestors as well as my husband's, he too was Polish, and you know, they not necessarily in his home, but his grandparents spoke Polish, so we had to learn. And he went to what was, for all intents and purposes at that time, a Polish Catholic elementary school.
Sure.
But I think that most of them came to this country to avoid oppression and persecution in their own countries.
Absolutely. And that's been, war and oppression has gone on for so long, and as we've been opening our eyes to how insidious this evil has been, it's been, to me, I've known of war and all of these things, and again, being raised in the military with a strong dedication to America. It's been shocking to me to find out how many insidious, evil people have this plot to just really destroy what's beautiful and good. It's been kind of a mind-boggling trip for me of understanding, and I don't like to delve into that and stay there. But it's one of those things like understanding why my mother had this duality. Once you have an understanding, then you can heal. Then you can go, then you have the aha moments, and then you can make new choices.
Yes, I think one of the things that were to the advantage of, like, our parents, is that they weren't so easily distracted. People seem to be very distracted now, and it seems like that may prevent them from looking further than what presents on the surface.
Distracted, and also I think, our parents we grew up with, I remember the first TV in the house. And the television has been it's programming.
Yes.
So our generation is the first that has been really programmed, and subsequent generations have been programmed. And you and I, as NLP professionals, understand about programming.
Yes, we do, because one of the first books I read as a probably 15 or 16-year-old was Vance Packard's Hidden Persuaders.
Mm.
And that would have been in early to mid 70s when I read that book. It was written before that. But, if you remember the show Mad Men, which I, didn't watch regularly, but that was advertising was born of influencing people to do and buy and think a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've kind of watched the evolution or devolution of people being influenced in this way. TV emits a lily wave, which is hypnotic.
Mm-hmm. And it also incites a lot of peer pressure. You're
does.
only this if you do this. So I see there's so many people who are making choices based on peer pressure instead of investigating for themselves the truth. I've had a couple of clients recently that I've been very impressed with, young people who have done their own investigation and made some strong decisions against their parents' will. The parents who have succumbed to peer pressure, and the children have said, no, I've investigated, and I'm so proud that they are using their own mind to ask questions, because when you get an answer, there's more questions to be asked.
Those are the light warriors that are going to carry us forward.
Absolutely.
There is that new breed of child that I have nothing but the ultimate respect for.
And keeping them connected with the God self, the God connection through the pineal. That's one of the things you and I have been working on. Is we've been given some guidance from our guides through the session work, and we're working on a webinar series to teach people how to stay God connected, how to clear the toxic energy. It's called Transform and Transmute Toxic Energy. And Kathy and I both have been doing a lot of this work, being able to identify the aberrant energies, because we both are trained in looking at and investigating auras for many, many years, and now we're seeing some unusual patterns in the auras. And together we've been working on helping people to clear their energy so that they can make their own choices.
Yes, and I feel like it's very important for people to start respecting the connection within, as opposed to the connection that comes across, the phone, the media. The connection within is an inner GPS system, the original GPS system. And so many people are unaware of that because of all the distraction and preoccupation with things that really don't matter.
I know that many of our spiritual groups have been hijacked as well by misaligned people, and they can use, if you go back to the Jim Jones, the Guyana story, where using spirituality causing people to go down a destructive path, that's been, even church and spirituality has been hijacked. So again, going within and connecting with your own inner truths, that is key. Don't believe anything I say, you say, whatever. Find for yourself the truth. And you can, sometimes it's work. It's not just given to you on a silver platter.
No.
But that's when you know it's real.
Yes, exactly. And too many people don't even realize that they're giving their power away by looking to someone to dictate what's right for their life. And that has to come from inside, and that has to come from a connection. It seems like so many people think God has gone out of fashion, but God isn't a fashion statement.
You're right. And if we did a journey the other day, we have a group of people, we have a couple of groups of people that meet and discuss the messages in Chronicles, which is a wonderful spiritual group. So if you're interested, we meet on the first and third Thursday evenings, and at noon as well, at 1 o'clock. But we also have a light warrior group, and we do all kinds of interesting journeys. And the other night, we decided to journey back to some of these lands that history has written about them in one way. But is history accurate? Is what's written accurate? Like the Mayans. And because we just reached the end of the Mayan calendar, right? On the 26th of May, 2021 was the end of the Mayan calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So on that night, we decided to go back. A group of us went back to explore. This is the amazing part of the power of the mind. Our DNA has so many unused strands that when we explore using the power of the mind and the mind-body-spirit connection, we can tap back into those memories. We have that ability. We just have to have the willingness to do it. So we went back to the land of Maya and saw how people lived and had the knowing of the stars and mathematics, and could plan when and how to plant the seeds to harvest good crops. So they were a culture that was completely conquered and taken over. So their history was lost with them, with the conquerors, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, history is written by the victor.
Mm-hmm. And so the sad piece is all the benefits, all of the wisdom, the amazing knowledge they had dies with them. So a part of me, and there's other people who do this too, is curious about resurrecting that knowledge. They knew.
Well, I think it's there. It's there. Our soul carries that resonance. That's why there's been such a concerted effort to keep us from knowing the full capabilities of our soul.
Mm-hmm.
I find it funny that people say, well, I don't believe in all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, its existence doesn't require you to believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our soul has been with us since the inception of life on Earth, and we've been coming and going for a very long time. Whether or not someone believes in reincarnation isn't dependent on that belief. It just is.
And you can also tie it in with the genetic DNA, that they say that some of our unused strands of DNA basically contain our history. So in my mother's situation with her grandmother being so stoic, the story that was told was that she ran off with this man, but that she left her tribe. But that doesn't explain why she was always so stoic, so angry, so disconnected. And my brother, in doing genealogic research, could only trace her. She just had a name. She was named Hannah. There was no birth certificate, because back then, during the Trail of Tears, that would have all been destroyed. So when I did this journey the other day, this could be just something that I made up. However, it felt right to me to have her tell me her story in spirit world and be able to share with me her pain. And then her name, she was reinvented, which is why there is no genealogic trace, because she was reinvented as a white person now. Yeah. And that's what they did. They stripped the memory. They stripped the heritage. So many people have done such horrible things, and then we just brush it under the rug and don't talk about it.
Well, and that's what they did when people came through Ellis Island. You know, they changed your last name.
Mm-hmm.
to Americanize it or what
Mm-hmm.
have you, or because it was hard to pronounce, or
Right.
because the person taking your information misheard it, or there were a multitude of reasons.
Right.
But I find it interesting that they refer to whatever in our DNA that they don't understand as junk DNA.
Mm. Now, I think that's our history. Well, you're an Akashic record
Absolutely.
specialist too. I'm wondering again. What do I know? I love to ask questions. I'm wondering if that's part of that DNA. Those of us who are able to tap into those memories, we're able to access that junk DNA to access the
Yes.
memories of our past. And if we can go back and understand where we came from, just maybe we can bring forward into creating the 5D, that new awareness. We can bring some of the nuggets of the past that were buried by the conquerors. If we
Yes.
can bring some of that forward.
I believe that we can, because there's certainly been things that have come out in different readings over time that I would have no way of knowing. I can't make that up.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think first and foremost, I think people need to not come together of one mind, but to at least let go of the fact that anyone who doesn't agree with us needs to be annihilated.
Mm-hmm. It's that variety of thought and a variety of memory that keeps things interesting, that keeps the stories alive. Grandmother Crow was on a couple weeks ago, and she's an avid storyteller. Well, the art of storytelling has been switched over to our TV shows. And those are constructed stories, and oftentimes specifically to program instead of to entertain. Most ancient history was passed down as there was a storyteller in the tribe that carried the history of the tribe, and that was passed down.
Absolutely. I mean, even within my own family, a cousin of mine who passed away several years ago now, Sully was the keeper of the stories, and he had the pictures, and each picture had a story, and told you, who each person was, and that kind of, a lot of that was lost when he passed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So keeping the stories alive, I think, is key to understanding where we come from, to understanding our roots. Then that helps to explain some of our behavior, our tendencies, our instinctive actions. And then afterwards we think, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Where did that come from? Because that's just, my mind is always asking the question. And when we have an understanding, it helps us to heal that and to make new changes, to elevate above past patterns.
Yes. I did an Akashic reading a while back, and people from this woman's ancestry stepped forward because she wanted to know part of her life purpose and what her experiences were about. And what she was clearing in this life cleared the entire line.
That's what they say. Yeah, if you can heal it, then you're healing the lineage.
And that's important. And that lineage needs to be kept alive and understanding. So that's why I have hope, because I've seen this happen. That was the furthest thing from my mind when I did her reading for her. But it seems like we're being assigned a history now that's not necessarily our history.
Mm-hmm.
And people can accept or reject that, and I think people need to think long and hard about that choice.
We are in a time of historical events right now. A lot of them are very painful and yet very significant. It's like the era as the Nazis were taking over Germany. They say that, because I have my dear friend and mentor, her father was killed. Her stepfather was a professor, and he was a Jewish sympathizer, and he was taken to one of the concentration camps and killed, and she and her mother escaped and hid in the caves of the south of France. She recalls being a child and being bullied and being coerced by other children into doing the Sig Heil, and she refused to do it, even as like we're talking kindergarten or first grade. The children were trained, and that's what we're seeing now, that the children are being mind controlled. It's so similar to the agenda that happened before, and people need to wake up and see this.
Well, yes, they need to wake up and see this, and they have to understand that right from the Chronicles, under the highlights of the universe, with true communication comes the realization the differences are not so great between us, and our hatred thus dissipates.
Right.
It's difficult to hate someone whom you view as similar to you.
Exactly.
And it seems like all that's been going on is, compliance or banishment. And that's not okay.
People need to be able to speak their truth with fairness and honesty and integrity. That's huge. That came from the Chronicles. Honesty and integrity, huge. And that's what's happening. What's happening, one of the things that's happening right now is the people are being force-fed a belief system. And those that have an alternative opinion are being shamed. They're being censored. Their careers are being destroyed. And that's not America. That's not living in a free society.
No, nothing good is ever born of coercion.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Each person is responsible for their own well-being. And some of these things that people are, I don't know if they're embracing it, but at least they're acquiescing to it, that we all need to do the same thing, otherwise it won't work for anybody. Well, that's ridiculous.
Again, it's an attempt at mind control. And it's, as you start delving into, some of this stuff has been going on for so long. And,
Very
and just
long.
like fluoride, that was what was used in the concentration camps to cause all the people to be compliant. Why is it still in our drinking
waste
water?
product.
Yeah. Why
It's
is
a
it in
waste
our
product.
toothpaste? Why? So it's been an ongoing pattern of creating compliance among people. It's really it's shocking when we start looking at it. And what we have to do, though, is realize it and then make steps to change it. And we've been given, I made my own version of hydroxychloroquine with grapefruit and lemon the other day, because there are countries that have no cases of COVID because it's called the Sunday drug, right?
Yeah.
Sunday medicine. So that it's cheap, it's inexpensive, and we can make it ourselves. But keeping our body healthy keeps us from getting COVID. So why do we need to have a shot that we don't even know what's in it? The instruction inside is blank. If you purchase a donut or a muffin, it has to list the ingredients, that it's got gluten or tree nuts or whatever, or peanuts. But something that's being injected in people's bodies, the insert is blank. It doesn't even say what's in it. That's really curious, suspicious.
Well, I find it curious, yes, because some of the same people that would never dream of buying a motor vehicle in the first year of release wanted to be the first ones to step up and roll up their sleeves. We don't even know what this is allegedly supposed to do. We have 7 hospitalizations relatively locally for COVID-19, all in people that have received the injection. So if it's not going to keep you from getting COVID, what exactly is it going to do?
I think what they're saying is it's going to lessen some of the symptoms. But
Till when?
Yeah, until you have to have the booster.
Well, but the thing is, if anybody can logically study what that does in your body, it becomes a little spike protein factory.
Mm-hmm.
So it may or may not, that's still debatable, lessen the severity the first time.
Right.
It's just that subsequent times are going to be more severe.
And that spike protein is what we're seeing in the auras now. I mean,
Yes.
I've been working with auras for over 30 years, and typically we're able to identify dark spots or off color or weak auras or just aberrant auras, and then we shift the energy, and there's different meaning. But since COVID and the vaccines, the COVID, we saw a different pattern of aura. The people who've been vaccinated, we're seeing the spikes, the metallic flecks in the aura. And the people who are being exposed to people who've been vaxxed that are experiencing the shedding, we're seeing a different kind of a mucky aura. And it's very interesting. We've seen it enough in enough people now to where there's a pattern. There's definitely a pattern.
Yes, there is a pattern. There is a pattern, and I find it disturbing. But I also find it hopeful that there's actually things that we can do, because I think that the outer body makes its way to the inner body. So what we see in the aura is ultimately going to filter down into the physical body. And if we can interrupt that process, I think there's a lot of people that we can help and have helped.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to be teaching about. For those of you who are interested, if you're doing Reiki, if you're a medical professional, if you're someone who's around other people, definitely check out. It's a 4-hour training that we're given. You'll actually experience the clearing yourself. We will take you, Kathy and I will take you on your own clearing experience, teach you how to keep your energy clear and possibly even clear other people. It's going to be on June 22nd and 29th, 2 Tuesdays for 2 hours each, so 4 hours for only $22. So we've priced it very reasonably, and we are asking a price just so that we don't get any strange bots signed up. So you can find it on our website, loisherman.com, and you can sign up right there. But I would highly encourage anybody who's working with people to explore this. Kathy and I have been doing a lot of research on it, and we bring many years of experience working with shifting energy, and we're hopeful that we can weather this storm and be able to tell the truth about it.
I feel pretty confident that we are going to be able to weather this storm. We're here for a purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. And sometimes we wonder why, and then other times we just say, "Yes, we have our marching orders. We're the spiritual warriors. We are the soldiers in our own way, and we are getting our marching orders from our amazing guides. So we feel comfortable and confident in that, and we're glad to have each other. And thank listeners for being here with us on this journey. And you can find Kathy at heartspringhealing.com. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
You can also find her.
Heartspring-healing.com.
You can also find her on my website as well. She's a consultant with me, and we've been doing some pretty incredible energy clearing work together. So we're wanting to share with others what we have discovered, so that we can bring hope. And that's the story, is bringing hope. So Kathy, thank you so much for being with me today and sharing hope and sharing your amazing gifts and wisdom.
It's my pleasure, Lois.
Meanwhile, listeners, until next week, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. God bless.